The Wealth Habit, a step-by-step guide to millionaire thinking in 3 months or less. Written and published by Mindset Academy. Part 1. There comes a moment in the life of every individual who has wrestled with uncertainty, scarcity, and the quiet anxiety of watching opportunities pass them by, when a realization begins to form slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, like the earliest light before dawn. And that realization is this: wealth is not an accident, nor is it a privilege reserved for the fortunate few, but rather a pattern of behavior repeated with such consistency and discipline that it becomes second nature, an ingrained rhythm of thought and action that shapes outcomes over time in ways that appear almost magical to the untrained observer. And yet, to the one who understands the deeper mechanics of success, there is nothing mysterious about it all. For wealth is not merely a number in a bank account, nor a symbol of status, but a reflection of habits. Quiet, persistent, often invisible habits that accumulate day after day until they form a foundation of a life defined by stability, confidence, and opportunity. It is important to understand, from the very beginning of this journey, that habits are the architecture of destiny, the unseen scaffolding upon which every achievement, every failure, every breakthrough, and every setback is built. A single action performed once may have little consequence, but an action repeated consistently becomes a force, and a force sustained over time becomes a reality so powerful that it reshapes circumstances, relationships, and possibilities. This is why the idea of building wealth in 3 months or less is not about sudden riches or shortcuts, but about establishing the mental and behavioral patterns that set in motion a chain reaction of progress, a momentum that continues long after the initial effort has been made. The 3-month period is not a promise of instant fortune, but a window of transformation, a deliberate season in which the mind is retrained, the focus sharpened, and the habits restructured to align with the principles that have guided successful individuals for generations. Consider for a moment the difference between those who struggle financially year after year and those who steadily rise toward independence and security. The difference is rarely intelligence, talent, or even opportunity, for many individuals possess these qualities in abundance and yet remain trapped in cycles of frustration and limitation. The true distinction lies in the daily decisions made when no one is watching, in the small choices that seem insignificant in isolation but become decisive when accumulated over weeks, months, and years. It is a decision to save a portion of income rather than spend it impulsively. The decision to learn a new skill instead of surrendering to distraction. The decision to plan for the future rather than react to the present. These choices, repeated faithfully, create habits, and habits, once established, become the engines that drive financial progress. In the modern world, where information is abundant and distractions are endless, the cultivation of productive habits has become both more challenging and more essential than ever before. Technology offers unprecedented opportunities to earn, invest, and grow, yet also introduces countless temptations that drain attention and energy. Social media, entertainment, and constant notifications compete for the mind's focus, making it difficult to maintain the discipline required for long-term success. This is why the concept of the wealth habit is so powerful, for it transforms discipline from a burden into a routine, from an occasional effort into an automatic response. When a habit is firmly established, it no longer requires constant willpower, operates quietly in the background, guiding behavior with the same reliability as breathing or walking. To build such habits, one must first understand the nature of the mind itself, for the mind is both the architect and the gatekeeper of every financial outcome. It determines what we believe is possible, what risks we are willing to take, and how persistently we pursue our goals. If the mind is filled with doubt, fear, and limiting beliefs, then even the most promising opportunities will appear threatening or unattainable. But if the mind is trained to recognize opportunity, manage risk, and remain focused on long-term objectives, then obstacles become manageable challenges rather than insurmountable barriers. The transformation of financial life, therefore, begins not with money, but with mindset, a shift in perception that opens the door to new behaviors and new results. This shift does not happen overnight, nor does it occur by accident. It requires intention, repetition, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about one's habits and priorities. Many individuals resist this process because it demands honesty, discipline, and patience. Qualities are often overshadowed by the desire for quick results. Yet those who embrace the process discover something remarkable: that progress, once initiated, becomes self-reinforcing. Each small success builds confidence. Each disciplined action strengthens resolve, and each positive outcome creates motivation to continue. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural, and what once seemed impossible becomes routine. In the context of building wealth, this progression is particularly powerful because financial habits compound in much the same way as investments. A modest amount saved consistently grows larger over time, not only because of interest or returns, but because the habit of saving expands the capacity to manage money wisely. Similarly, the habit of learning about finance, business, or investment increases the ability to recognize profitable opportunities, turning knowledge into income and income into stability. The individual who cultivates these habits is not merely earning money. They are building a system of behaviors that generates wealth continuously. It is also essential to recognize that habits are influenced by environment, and environment, in turn, shapes behavior in subtle yet profound ways. The people we interact with, the information we consume, and the routines we follow each day all contribute to the formation of habits, either strengthening productive behaviors or reinforcing destructive ones. A person surrounded by individuals who value discipline, growth, and financial responsibility is more likely to adopt those qualities, just as a person immersed in a culture of impulsive spending and short-term thinking is more likely to mirror those patterns. This is why successful individuals are deliberate about their environment, choosing associations and influences that support their goals rather than undermine them. As this journey begins, it is helpful to view the next 3 months not as a test of endurance, but as a period of deliberate transformation, a season in which new habits are planted and nurtured with care and consistency. During this time, progress may appear slow and results may seem modest, yet beneath the surface, profound changes are taking place. Neural pathways are being rewired, behaviors are becoming automatic, and confidence is growing steadily. The foundation of wealth is being laid, brick by brick, through daily actions that align with long-term vision. Ultimately, the purpose of this audiobook is not simply to teach financial techniques or strategies, but to guide the listener through a process of personal evolution, one that transforms the way they think about money, work, and opportunity. It is a journey from reaction to intention, from uncertainty to clarity, from limitation to possibility. And while the path may require effort and persistence, the rewards are extraordinary. Freedom from financial stress, confidence in one's future, and the satisfaction of knowing that success is not a matter of luck, but the result of deliberate, disciplined habits practiced consistently over time. The wealth habit, once established, becomes more than a tool. It becomes a way of life, a guiding principle that shapes decisions, actions, and outcomes with quiet reliability. It is the invisible force behind every millionaire, the silent partner in every successful venture, and the enduring legacy of those who choose discipline over distraction, patience over impulse, and long-term vision over short-term gratification. And so, as this journey unfolds, remember that the transformation you seek does not begin with money. It begins with the habits you choose to build today, for within those habits lies the blueprint of your financial future. Part 2. If the first step in the journey toward wealth is the recognition that habits shape destiny, then the second step is a deliberate construction of those habits with patience, precision, and unwavering commitment. For it is not enough to simply wish for change or to admire the discipline of others from a distance. One must enter the workshop of daily life and begin the careful work of shaping behavior. Much like a craftsman who knows that every masterpiece begins not with inspiration alone, but with repeated strokes of effort applied consistently over time until raw material is transformed into something strong, reliable, and enduring. The formation of a wealth habit is, in truth, an act of quiet craftsmanship, an intentional process through which ordinary actions are refined into routines that support progress, stability, and long-term success. Many individuals, when they first attempt to change their financial lives, make the mistake of seeking dramatic transformations, believing that a single bold decision or a sudden burst of motivation will be enough to alter the trajectory of their future, yet history and experience reveal a different truth. Lasting change is rarely dramatic, and genuine progress is often subtle, unfolding slowly through small adjustments repeated faithfully day after day. It is a consistent act of setting aside a portion of income, the regular review of expenses, the disciplined refusal to spend impulsively, and the steady commitment to learning about money that gradually reshapes the mind and builds a foundation of financial independence. These actions may appear modest at first glance, Yet they possess a quiet power, for repetition turns effort into routine, and routine turns discipline into identity. To understand why habits are so powerful, one must look beyond the surface of behavior and consider the deeper mechanisms of the human mind. For the mind is designed to conserve energy, and it accomplishes this by turning repeated actions into automatic responses. When a behavior becomes habitual, it no longer requires intense concentration or constant decision-making. It flows naturally, guided by patterns established through repetition. This is why the early stages of habit formation often feel challenging, as the mind resists change and clings to familiar routines, even when those routines are unproductive or harmful. Yet with persistence, new patterns take root, and what once required effort becomes effortless, allowing the individual to direct energy toward higher-level goals rather than basic self-control. In the realm of wealth building, this transformation is particularly significant because financial success depends not on occasional brilliance, but on consistent behavior. A single month of disciplined saving cannot secure a stable future, just as a single day of exercise cannot guarantee lifelong health. It is the accumulation of disciplined actions, sustained over weeks, months, and years, that produces meaningful results. The individual who understands this principle begins to approach money with a sense of calm determination, recognizing that progress is measured not by sudden gains, but by steady advancement along a carefully chosen path. One of the most effective ways to build a wealth habit is to create a clear and structured routine, for structure provides stability, and stability supports consistency. A routine removes the burden of constant decision-making by establishing predetermined actions that are performed at specific times, reducing the likelihood of procrastination or distraction. For example, setting aside time each week to review financial goals, track expenses, and plan future investments create a rhythm that reinforces discipline and keeps the mind focused on long-term objectives. Over time, this routine becomes as natural as any other daily activity, transforming financial management from a stressful obligation into a familiar and manageable process. Equally important is the role of awareness, for habits are strengthened not only by repetition, but by understanding the reasons behind each action. When an individual knows why they are saving, investing, or budgeting, their commitment becomes deeper and more resilient. Purpose provides motivation, and motivation sustains effort during moments of difficulty or temptation. Without purpose, habits may falter under pressure. With purpose, they become anchors that hold steady even in turbulent circumstances. This is why successful individuals often take time to define their financial goals clearly, visualizing the life they wish to build and the opportunities they wish to create for themselves and their families. Another essential element in the formation of wealth habits is the willingness to accept gradual progress, for impatience is one of the greatest obstacles to financial success. In a culture that celebrates instant gratification and rapid results, it is easy to become discouraged when progress appears slow or when initial efforts yield modest outcomes. Yet those who persevere discover a remarkable phenomenon, the compounding effect of consistent action. Just as interest accumulates over time, disciplined habits generate momentum, and momentum accelerates progress. What begins as a small change in behavior eventually produces significant improvements in financial stability, confidence, and opportunity. It is also important to recognize that setbacks are an inevitable part of the journey, and they should be viewed not as failures, but as lessons that provide valuable insight into areas requiring adjustment or improvement. A missed savings target, an unexpected expense, or a temporary loss does not erase progress. It simply highlights the need for refinement in strategy or behavior. The individual who approaches setbacks with curiosity rather than frustration maintains forward momentum, using each challenge as an opportunity to strengthen resilience and sharpen decision-making skills. As a habit of disciplined financial behavior becomes established, a subtle shift begins to occur within the individual's identity. They no longer see themselves as someone struggling to manage money, but as a person capable of creating stability and growth through deliberate action. This shift in identity is powerful because it influences future behavior, reinforcing the very habits that produce the initial transformation. Confidence replaces doubt, clarity replaces confusion, and determination replaces hesitation, creating a positive cycle in which success breeds further success. During this second phase of the 3-month journey, the focus is not on perfection, but on consistency. The goal is to show up each day with the intention to practice disciplined behavior, even when motivation is low or circumstances are challenging. Consistency builds trust in oneself, and self-trust is the cornerstone of financial independence. When individuals trust their ability to follow through on commitments, they become more willing to set ambitious goals and pursue opportunities that once seemed beyond their reach. In time, the wealth habit evolves from a conscious effort into a natural expression of character, guiding decisions automatically and shaping outcomes with quiet reliability. It becomes a lens through which opportunities are evaluated, risks are managed, and resources are allocated. The individual who has cultivated this habit possesses a powerful advantage in the modern economy, for they are equipped not only with knowledge, but with discipline, the ability to act consistently in alignment with long-term goals. Thus, the journey continues, not as a race toward immediate results, but as a steady progression toward mastery of behavior and mindset. Each day of disciplined action strengthens the foundation of financial success, and each repeated habit moves the individual closer to the realization of their potential. The path may require patience, effort, and persistence, yet the destination is worth every step. A life defined by stability, confidence, and the freedom to shape one's future with intention and purpose. Part 3. There comes a defining period in every transformation when the early excitement of beginning has faded, when the novelty of new routines has settled into the quiet rhythm of daily effort, and when the individual is confronted not with dramatic obstacles, but with something far more subtle and far more dangerous. The temptation to return to old patterns simply because they feel familiar, comfortable, and effortless. It is within this stage that the true strength of the wealth habit is tested. For discipline is not proven during moments of inspiration, but during ordinary days when motivation is low, distractions are abundant, and progress seems slow enough to be invisible. The individual who continues forward during this phase, guided not by emotion, but by commitment, begins to cultivate a form of inner stability that separates those who merely attempt change from those who achieve lasting transformation. At this point in the journey, the mind begins to reveal its deeper tendencies, patterns that have been shaped over years of experience and reinforced by countless small decisions. Some of these patterns are constructive, supporting growth and responsible behavior, while others quietly undermine progress, encouraging procrastination, impulsive spending, or avoidance of responsibility. The recognition of these patterns is not a cause for frustration, but an opportunity for awareness, for one cannot change what one does not first understand. The individual who observes their own habits with honesty, without judgment or self-criticism, gains the power to redirect behavior intentionally, replacing unproductive routines with actions that align with long-term goals. This stage of awareness is particularly important in the pursuit of financial stability, because money has a unique ability to magnify emotional responses. Fear can lead to hesitation, preventing individuals from taking necessary risks or making important decisions, while excitement can lead to impulsive choices that undermine careful planning. The wealth habit, therefore, requires emotional discipline as much as financial knowledge. It asks the individual to pause before acting, to consider consequences before spending, and to maintain perspective even during moments of uncertainty. In doing so, it transforms money from a source of stress into a tool for progress, one that can be managed calmly and strategically rather than reactively. Another essential realization during this phase is that progress often occurs beneath the surface, in ways that are not immediately visible but are nonetheless powerful. Just as a tree develops strong roots before it produces abundant fruit, the individual who practices disciplined habits is strengthening their foundation long before dramatic results appear. Savings may grow slowly at first, skills may take time to develop, and opportunities may seem distant. Yet each consistent action contributes to a structure that becomes stronger with every passing day. Patience, therefore, is not merely a virtue in the pursuit of wealth. It is a necessity, a recognition that meaningful growth requires time, persistence, and trust in the process. As the weeks progress, the individual begins to notice subtle changes in their thinking and behavior. Decisions that once required effort become automatic, and choices that once felt difficult become routine. The act of setting aside money becomes natural rather than burdensome, and a habit of planning for the future becomes a source of confidence rather than anxiety. These changes may seem small, yet they represent a profound shift in identity, a transition from reacting to circumstances to shaping them deliberately. The individual is no longer a passive participant in their financial life, but an active architect, designing outcomes through consistent action and thoughtful decision-making. It is also during this stage that the importance of focus becomes increasingly clear, for attention is one of the most valuable resources an individual possesses. In a world filled with constant information and endless opportunities for distraction, the ability to concentrate on meaningful goals is a rare and powerful skill. The wealth habit encourages intentional focus, directing energy toward activities that produce lasting value while minimizing time spent on tasks that offer little return. This disciplined allocation of attention ensures that progress continues steadily, even when external circumstances are unpredictable or challenging. Moreover, the individual begins to recognize that wealth is not merely the result of earning more money, but of managing resources wisely and using them strategically. Income alone cannot guarantee stability. It must be accompanied by thoughtful planning, responsible spending, and deliberate investment. The wealth habit transforms money into a partner in growth, guiding decisions that support long-term security rather than short-term gratification. Over time, this partnership creates a sense of control and confidence, allowing the individual to approach financial challenges with clarity and resilience. Another powerful insight emerges as a habit of discipline deepens, the realization that self-respect is closely tied to consistency. When individuals keep promises to themselves, saving regularly, learning continuously, and acting responsibly, they develop trust in their own abilities. This self-trust becomes a source of motivation, encouraging them to set higher goals and pursue greater opportunities. Conversely, when commitments are repeatedly broken, confidence diminishes, making progress more difficult. The wealth habit, therefore, is not only a financial practice, but a personal one, strengthening character and reinforcing a sense of reliability and integrity. As this third phase unfolds, the individual begins to see the connection between daily behavior and long-term outcomes with increasing clarity. Each action, no matter how small, contributes to the overall direction of their life. A single decision to save rather than spend may seem insignificant in isolation, yet repeated consistently, it becomes a defining force, shaping financial stability and future possibilities. This awareness fosters a sense of responsibility, encouraging thoughtful choices and deliberate planning in every aspect of financial management. Gradually, the journey transforms from a series of tasks into a way of life. Discipline is no longer an effort imposed from the outside, but an expression of personal values and priorities. The individual begins to take pride in their habits, recognizing them as tools for building security, independence, and opportunity. This pride is not rooted in arrogance, but in quiet confidence, the knowledge that progress is being made, step by step, through consistent effort and thoughtful action. And so, the third phase of the wealth habit is not defined by dramatic breakthroughs or sudden success, but by steady perseverance, increased awareness, and the strengthening of character. It is a stage in which discipline becomes identity, patience becomes strength, and consistency becomes momentum. The individual who remains committed during this period is laying the groundwork for a future defined not by uncertainty, but by stability, confidence, and the freedom to shape life according to intention rather than circumstance. Part 4, the final stage. As the journey approaches its final stage, a quiet but unmistakable transformation begins to reveal itself, not in sudden windfalls or dramatic announcements, but in the steady confidence that now lives within the individual who has faithfully practiced the discipline of daily habits. For what once required effort now feels natural, what once felt uncertain now feels manageable, and what once seemed distant now appears not only possible, but inevitable. The person who has walked this path for 3 deliberate months begins to notice that their relationship with money, time, and opportunity has shifted in subtle yet profound ways, and that the true reward of the wealth habit is not merely financial gain, but the emergence of a new identity, an identity rooted in responsibility, foresight, and the quiet assurance that the future can be shaped through consistent action rather than left to chance. It is in this stage that the individual begins to understand a truth that many overlook in their pursuit of wealth, that the greatest asset one can possess is not money itself, but the mindset and habits that produce money reliably over time. Wealth, when built upon discipline, becomes resilient, capable of withstanding unexpected challenges and adapting to changing circumstances, while wealth built upon luck or temporary advantage often fades as quickly as it appears. The person who has cultivated the wealth habit no longer depends on favorable conditions or external validation, for they carry within them a system of behavior that generates stability regardless of the environment in which they operate. During these final weeks of the 3-month transformation, the mind begins to operate with a new level of clarity, and decisions that once felt complicated now feel straightforward because they are guided by principles rather than emotions. Spending becomes intentional rather than impulsive. Saving becomes automatic rather than burdensome, and planning becomes routine rather than overwhelming. This clarity extends beyond finances and begins to influence every aspect of life, shaping how time is managed, how opportunities are evaluated, and how challenges are approached. The wealth habit, once limited to financial behavior, now reveals itself as a philosophy for living, a disciplined approach to decision-making that prioritizes long-term value over short-term comfort. Another powerful realization emerges at this stage, one that separates those who merely improve their financial situation from those who achieve lasting independence. The understanding that wealth is sustained not by intensity, but by consistency. Many individuals experience periods of motivation in which they work tirelessly toward their goals, only to lose momentum when enthusiasm fades or obstacles arise. The wealth habit, however, is designed to endure beyond emotion, functioning as a reliable structure that supports progress even on days when energy is low or circumstances are challenging. It transforms success from an occasional achievement into a predictable outcome, produced by routines that operate steadily in the background of daily life. As confidence grows, so too does the willingness to think bigger, to set goals that once seemed beyond reach, and take calculated risks that expand opportunities rather than limit them. The individual who has mastered the fundamentals of discipline begins to explore new possibilities, investments that generate additional income, skills that increase earning potential, and ventures that create long-term value. These actions are not driven by desperation or impatience, but by preparation, for the foundation built during the previous months provides the stability needed to pursue growth without fear. It is also during this final stage that the individual begins to experience the compounding power of their habits in a tangible way. Savings accounts show steady growth. Expenses are managed with confidence, and financial decisions are made with a sense of control rather than uncertainty. Even small victories, a debt reduced, an emergency fund established, a new source of income created, serve as reminders that progress is real and momentum is building. These milestones reinforce a belief that discipline works, strengthening commitment to continue practicing the habits that produce these results. Yet perhaps the most important lesson of this stage is the recognition that the journey does not truly end after 3 months. The 3-month period is a beginning, a structured season in which new habits are formed and tested. But the real power of the wealth habit lies in its permanence. Once established, it becomes a lifelong companion, guiding decisions and shaping outcomes for years to come. The individual who understands this truth approaches the future with patience and confidence, knowing that success is not a destination to be reached once, but a process to be sustained through consistent behavior. In the broader context of life, the wealth habit becomes a source of freedom, providing the resources and stability needed to pursue meaningful goals, support loved ones, and contribute to the community. Financial independence is not merely about accumulating money. It is about creating options, reducing stress, and gaining the ability to make decisions based on values rather than necessity. The person who has cultivated disciplined habits can choose their path with intention, guided by purpose rather than pressure. As this final stage unfolds, a sense of quiet pride begins to take root, not the pride of arrogance, but the satisfaction of knowing that progress has been earned through effort, patience, and perseverance. The individual looks back on the past 3 months and sees not only financial improvement, but personal growth, a stronger sense of discipline, a clearer understanding of priorities, and a deeper confidence in their ability to shape the future. This transformation is the true measure of success, for it represents the emergence of a mindset capable of sustaining wealth over a lifetime. And so, the journey of a wealth habit concludes with a simple yet powerful realization: that wealth is not a mystery reserved for a select few, but a predictable outcome for those who commit to disciplined action and thoughtful decision-making. The habits formed during this process become the foundation upon which future achievements are built, ensuring that progress continues long after the initial transformation has taken place. The individual who carries these habits forward possesses something far more valuable than money. They possess the knowledge, discipline, and confidence to create prosperity again and again, no matter where life leads. In this understanding lies the final truth of the wealth habit. That lasting success is not the result of extraordinary talent or fortunate circumstances, but of ordinary actions performed consistently with extraordinary commitment, day after day, month after month, until discipline becomes destiny and intention becomes reality.